Today we're going to be talking about a hot topic, and I have some guests here with us. So first we have Caitlin, special education teacher in Georgia schools. Next we have Sarah, general education teacher in Lauren School. Next we have her parent Memphis, and then we have the student Lauren. Alright, let's go down and see. So today we have an 8-year-old girl who is falling behind in school, and we invited specialists to come out and see if they can help find a solution. So, starting off with the student, let's talk about how you feel.
I feel left out of school. All of my friends are moving on, and I'm just by myself in my own reading group. That's how I feel.
And how does that make you feel?
You know, just at home, like, she hasn't shown any interest in, like, independent reading, and she wants to spend less time with her friends from school, and it makes me sad to see, like, that going on in her life.
So, directed towards the teachers, what milestones should she be accomplishing at this time that she's not?
Sure, I can take this one. So at this time, she should have accomplished these milestones. So she should be using past tense. Her vocabulary should be about 10,000 words. She should ask a lot of questions like why and who. She should also have spatial relations, so like on top of or far away from. And on top of having past tense, she should also have future tense, present tense, and just all other types of sentences.
Does the audience have any questions at this time?
Me?
Yeah.
Given the stages, where does the student fall within her age range?
I would say with Lauren's situation, she falls somewhere between 5 and 6. So she is able to, you know, use about 10,000 words. She does know her like on top of and far, you know, her like spatial relations, and she can use certain types of sentences, but she is not, correct me if I'm wrong, she's not at her like reading level for a second grader where she should be.
And given that she has not met her reading level, I would say she is at about the age range of a 5 to 6 year old reading level.
So Memphis, I'm going to ask you, has she always met her milestones? And if not, when did she stop?
I would say that she was meeting her milestones pretty regularly until about age 4 or 5, and I started to notice her vocab wasn't as large as some of her like friends, and the other kids that she would always hang out with would always ask a lot of questions about like their world around them, but Lauren wasn't asking as many questions like that.
And Sarah, you're her school teacher, right?
I am, yes.
So what have you noticed in your classroom specifically?
Well, Lauren keeps to herself a lot whenever we do reading activities, and she has struggled a lot to read and write, and even though we have put her in her own small reading group, she is falling behind. So in class, it's just, I want to help her, but there's just a lot, I don't know, I think in her brain there's just a lot going on that we as adults don't understand and have to work through.
And Caitlin, have you worked with students with similar development blocks?
I have, and generally I will read books to students, and I slowly increase the length of each book, and this usually increases in retention, so if you would like to try that, I'm sure it would be helpful. You can also try letting her help plan activities for you guys to do, and you know, certain things. I would also encourage praising when she talks about those feelings and thoughts that she's having, and helping her seek help for that. Maybe get her in with somebody who can help you both talk about those feelings. I would continue to encourage her to tell and make up stories. Maybe have like little plays in your living room, if at all possible.
Yeah, those all sound really good, and I would even say maybe start to like, when she starts talking to you, kind of use like probing questions, and kind of encourage a longer and deeper conversation with her, almost like you're talking to an adult, because I think she needs to see us modeling what she should be doing in order to help her kind of reach those milestones again, because she's a smart kid. She's really smart. I've seen that in my class, and I think as long as we can get her to where she needs to be by the end of the year, she'll be good.
Okay. Is there any questions in the audience? Okay then. We've presented a solution today, and we've talked about the problem. And if you have children at home that are sharing similar interests and not doing well in school, maybe you can just talk about it and find out what your problem is at home.
Can I ask Dad a question?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what? I know they gave you some suggestions on some of the things you could do. So, are you willing to work with those kind of things? And if so, what resources do you have, or do you know where to go get resources to help with those things outside of school?
I'm definitely like willing to use the resources like that the teachers provided. As far as finding like other resources outside of school, no, I don't.
Well, do you think the teachers can, either one of the teachers can help with somewhere she could find some resources to help?
I would love that.
The local library.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say your local library should be a really great place, because a lot of libraries have programs where students can check out books, and once they finish reading the book, they can bring it back and get another one. And they have like a reward system almost. But then also, I would encourage maybe like some libraries have like book clubs. And I think a book club could be really good for her, because she would get to read, you know, all the kinds of books, like whatever she wants to read. And, you know, I'm sure, do you have any other?
I know a lot of local libraries also have programs where they have somebody from the community come in and like read a book to the children, and they have kind of like talk sessions about what's going on in the book and like what the students feel was important in the book, which I think could be really important to her being able to develop like comprehension skills at her age.
And maybe even considering one-on-one time with a tutor or a speech pathologist.
Yes. That would also be a good idea.
Lauren, how do you feel about these suggestions?
That sounds great.
So what about some things such as are there some other community activities you can be involved in to improve her as a emerging learner, or outside of group kinds of things that she could do in her community to be involved with other people that use the language, that can increase her language skills, etc.? Are there some other things in the community? Church?
Yeah, I think.
I'm not putting religion on anybody, but just thinking through that.
I think you think volunteer opportunities?
Possibly with other kids her age, maybe getting her involved in some kind of like extracurricular activity, like maybe ballet or gymnastics, just to get, you know, that doesn't involve a whole lot of talking, but she's socializing with other kids, so she may pick up on their vocabulary and be able to develop her speech patterns using just by talking to other students, which would give her the opportunity to, she wouldn't feel stressed, I'm sure, about talking with an adult that she feels like might not understand her situation.
And you could always ask her what she would maybe want to do, so like what she's interested in doing.
Are there other opportunities for play, like therapy or anything of that nature?
There is also the opportunity for occupational therapy that may help her find fun in speech therapy, essentially. So, you know, teachers may be able, or a specialist could come into her classroom and take her out of the classroom for a little bit and be able to like help her with her speech patterns and making sure that she's up to vocabulary with fun activities like bingo cards and all of that.
And that is something that the school provides as well. So our school would provide her with an occupational therapist for that, if you're interested.
And we can definitely get that started with, I am a special education teacher in her class, or in her school, so I can definitely get that set up for you if you wanted to.
So it's all about what you feel is best for your child.
You have a question?
So, because language is such a far-reaching subject area and it is involved in science and history and mathematics, are we noticing our student falling behind in other areas as well?
I think for Lauren, her struggle, not issue, it's the wrong word. Her struggle comes more so in reading than anything else. But I have noticed her struggling a little bit in history, which has a lot to do with, they're very closely correlated subjects. So, but when it comes to like math and science, I've noticed that she's usually doing very well on those assignments. I've noticed that she has a very mathematical brain, but I think when it comes to reading and history, she has fallen a little bit behind. Okay, yeah, I think when it comes to reading and history, she has fallen a little bit behind, but I think with the suggestions that we provided and the support that if the parent feels they want to start, then I think we can get her in a really good place for next year.
So, hearing all of this information, do you think it would be best to maybe take a step back and hold Lauren back a grade, or keep going and see if you can add some more tests to see where her progress is, to monitor it a little bit more? What are your thoughts on that?
I personally feel like we should, I am not a proponent of holding children back a grade, especially if we can get them where they need to be by a certain time. So I would say maybe implementing like her coming into my classroom or another special education teacher's classroom to get a little extra help in that reading area while they are doing their like small groups or whatnot, and having smaller tests throughout the year to make sure that she's hitting progress. That way we don't have to hold her back a year, but if that comes to it, that might be the best option. But I would hate to say that now, knowing that Lauren is such a bright girl and she can make progress throughout the year if we give her the proper tools that she needs.
And how do you feel about that?
I definitely also don't want to like hold Lauren back, but I think like one thing like I would implement is definitely just more at-home reading, but also taking into account like resources like public libraries and also like non-reading resources like what you mentioned with ballet and sports, just so she has more interactions with children that are stress-free.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for having us today.
And when it comes to the other